and we got memoranda from the Nairobi Coffee Exchange itself, the Capital Markets Authority, a certain farmer called Mr. Caleb Kipyegon. The Council of Governors submitted their memoranda. Kenya Association of Manufacturers were there, Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency, or KEBROPA, also promoted their memoranda, as well as the Coffee Reforms Steering Committee, which was involved in going through the coffee study of the coffee itself. So the stakeholders' feedback on our speaker, I wish to highlight a few as I close. Most of the stakeholders supported the enactment of the Coffee Bill 2023. They said it's a good way to move, good way forward, and they also indicated that we need to adopt this particular legislation. They also observed that the Coffee Board of Kenya would increase efficiency in the sector due to reduced bureaucracy and also expedient processes. Honourable Speaker, they were keen on improving farmer income through fair pricing. They were keen on better market access. They were very particular on improving the farming techniques and also very particular on enhancing the global competitiveness because it is because of the improved quality of the coffee itself and the issue of traceability. Honourable Speaker, there are certain amendments that this bill has basically brought about. And these amendments, the stakeholders proposed amendments aimed at enriching the bill itself, such as ensuring there is no overlap in mandates between the county and the national government. There is no overlaps in mandate between the different institutions. It also basically provided incentives such as tax holiday for some of the prospective investors in this particular sector, where that which will lead to reduction of the corporate tax rate for new coffee processors in order to motivate processors to come and process coffee in this country. As we said, only about 13% of the processing capacity is utilized, as it were. Honourable Speaker, as I close, I'd like to thank my committee for the work they did and thank the Speaker and the supporting God from the Secretariat. Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I wish to move.
Seconder? Who's your seconder? You haven't invited your seconder. Who's your seconder, Honorable Mutunga?
Honourable Speaker, I would like to ask the Deputy Leader Majority to second.
Thank you.
But I was supposed to move. I asked him to move.
I don't know if he knows anything about coffee, but
Honourable Speaker,
hopefully you briefed him.
Honourable Speaker, I would like to put it on record. This is a bill by the Leader of Majority. And this office was supposed to move this bill, but I asked Dr. Mutunga to do that. And then that he allows that I do it, second him on behalf of the Leader of Majority, which is proper. So allow...
That's definitely not, and I get the context.
So allow the Majority's office to be heard on this. Then now others can debate.
I agree.
Whether I know how to farm coffee or not. Honourable Speaker, thank you very much. Honourable Speaker, I beg to second that the Coffee Bill 2023, Senate Bill number 10 of 2023, be read for the second time. Honourable Speaker, I would like to thank the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock for the remarkable job they did in looking and dissecting this bill and bringing it here so that it goes for the second reading. Honourable Speaker, the bill proposes to reorganize the coffee industry by transitioning the regulatory and commercial roles currently undertaken by AFA, the Agricultural Food Authority, to the Coffee Board of Kenya. Honourable Speaker, this bill further seeks to transition the research of coffee currently undertaken by the Coffee Research Institute under the Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization to the Coffee Research Institute. Honourable Speaker, the chairman has highlighted some of the key parts and aspects of this bill, but I don't want to go into that, but just to say a few things, Honourable Speaker, that the bill provides, Honourable Speaker, for the establishment of the Coffee Board of Kenya. You remember when we were young, there used to be a program on radio, and you'd hear a song on Coffee Board of Kenya. Meaning, therefore, that particular time, coffee was being managed by an authority, by an organization that looked and knew and drank and slept and ate only coffee. And it thrived because there was this organization that looked after coffee and everything about coffee. This was also about other crops, tea, pyrethrum, and other organizations. But this parliament, in its wisdom, brought something called AFA and bundled all of them into one body. And this animal called AFA has actually cannibalized some of the crops, and the development of these crops, Honorable Speaker, have been stunted because of that decision. Honorable Speaker, it is important, Honorable Speaker, that
what's your point of order, Honorable Mutunga?
Mutunga, next time I want to allow you to move a bill.
Honorable Speaker, I had some references to AFA as an animal. I was involved in the formation of AFA. I was in the interim management committee.
Yes.
We did not form an animal. We formed a parastatal, a state corporation called Agriculture and Food Authority. Then I remember in order to say that AFA is an animal.
Honorable Speaker, you know, if you're not a native...
I think that was said in jest.
Is not a native speaker of English, he may not understand English idioms. So I want to put him in his place. Honorable
Mutunga, you have been given sufficient opportunity to canvass this issue. I think let's allow others.
Honorable Speaker, this bill also provides, as you read the bills, for the role of county governments to enact county-specific legislations so that they can, those counties that are growing coffee, they can have county-specific legislation on coffee to move the crop forward and ensure that coffee takes its center stage in this country as one of the key agricultural crops, and therefore that spurs economic development. For example, Honorable Speaker, coffee, if you go to America, you go to all parts of the world, they'll talk about Kenyan coffee. And we have an obligation to the world to ensure that this taste, this unique taste of Kenyan coffee still is celebrated over the world. And therefore, this parliament has the opportunity to reset the Coffee Board of Kenya, give it its arsenal, give it all the specific ingredients that it requires so that Kenyan coffee continues to taste as Kenyan coffee and is traded there and brings a lot of foreign exchange to this country and spurs agricultural development in this country. Honorable Speaker, as well stated by Honorable Mutunga, the Honorable Chair and the member for one of the best constituencies in this country, a professor of agriculture, Honorable Speaker, coffee marketing and trading is well captured in this bill. Coffee, trading, and marketing. The farmers will grow the coffee, but without a robust mechanism providing for trading and marketing of coffee, we may not achieve what we want to achieve as a country. So this bill properly provides for coffee trading and marketing in clauses 49 to 54. In this, Honorable Speaker, is anchored what we would like to do to move from just mere growing of coffee to manufacturing, to marketing, and to the branding of Kenyan coffee so that it becomes the best in the world, and therefore benefiting this country. And this government has invested a lot of money in terms of developing this sector, and the payoff can only come, Honorable Speaker, if coffee is properly traded and marketed to ensure that we take our center stage, Honorable Speaker, in the world. Honorable Speaker, a lot of crops provided for, and I know, Honorable Speaker, you brought something amazing here once about pest control and uses of, all those pesticides and all that. But this speaks to quality assurance. You see, this bill provides for proper quality assurance of coffee to ensure that coffee, we do not just grow coffee, market coffee, but we grow quality coffee, market quality coffee, and the world drink quality coffee. And that's why in clauses 60 to 62 of this bill, Honorable Speaker, is provided for quality assurance mechanism to ensure that coffee imports conform to standards prescribed by laws, not only in the country, but also international standard, so that our coffee stands out. Honorable Speaker, research. A lot of the crops in this country have failed because as we started these crops over the years, research was not being done. Research was not funded, and therefore there wasn't any research output to make the products better. But, Honorable Speaker, if you look at this bill, within clauses 69 to 74, this bill provides for Coffee Research and Training Institute of Kenya, a body, corporate, an institute that will ensure proper research is done on coffee variety, on coffee, all aspects of coffee, to ensure that there is growth of the industry. The lack of research in a crop means that that crop will be stunted. But if you have proper research and research institutes, then if new varieties will come, the upgrade of the crop will come in, and new products will even be established to ensure that this crop that is important to not only Kenya but also the world continues to grow and continues to be a better crop. Honorable Speaker, in this bill, transitional clauses are provided because we want to move from AFA to Coffee Board of Kenya, or move the crop from AFA, the armpit of AFA, to Coffee Board of Kenya. And therefore it is very important, Honorable Speaker, that we have transitional clauses. So clause 100 to 107, Honorable Speaker, provides for the transition of assets and obligations and Agriculture and Food Authority with respect to the coffee sector, and legal proceedings are provided, Honorable Speaker, reference to written law, staff of the Coffee Directorate and AFA, and all these people, so that people do not start feeling that when this bill is passed, people who are in the Directorate of Coffee and AFA will lose their jobs. It is taken care of properly in this law, so that no one is scared that when Coffee Board of Kenya is set up, therefore they will lose jobs, they will lose their remuneration, they will lose a lot of things. This bill provides for proper transitional clauses to ensure there is a smooth and seamless movement from AFA to Coffee Board of Kenya. It is provided, Honorable Speaker, in this law. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, the first schedule to this bill contains provisions relating to the conduct of business and affairs of the Board of Directors, which, Honorable Speaker, are clauses that we find in any other law, and therefore I do not need to belabor that. But I want to say this. In conclusion, this bill will provide a legal framework which will enable the sector to be more profitable in the country, increase efficiency due to reduced bureaucracies and expedited processes, improve the farmer income, which is very important, through fair pricing, better market access, and improved farming techniques, and enhanced global competitiveness as a result of improved quality and innovations. Honorable Speaker, I urge members to support the coffee bill. I know the honorable member, who I'm her doctor, said that I don't know anything about coffee. Now you can see I know so much. So much about coffee. I could even articulate issues of coffee better than she can, or better than they can. Honorable Speaker.
What's your point of order, Honorable Wamushomba?
Madam Speaker, whereas I have no issues with the Deputy Leader of Majority seconding this bill, which I personally support because I am a coffee farmer and I represent farmers, he needs to substantiate. He has said that he's my doctor. In what aspect is he my doctor? Because I am not sure whether I have ever had or seen him practice medicine in any way. So you need to come out very clearly on records.
I think he meant he has a doctorate in the area of coffee. Okay, proceed. So what do you have to respond?
Honorable Speaker, before I sit down, I actually want to say, and I second. And I also want to second the Honorable Wamushomba to stand up and speak on the bill. I want to second her to do that. Thank you.
Okay, hold on, Honorable, yes. Hold on, Honorable Wamushomba. You're next. So we first have the Honorable Member for Molo, Honorable... Honorable Wamushomba, you're such a hurry to debate the bill that I'm forgetting to propose the question. Honorable members, I now propose the question that the Coffee Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2023, be read a second time. I think we have the Honorable Member for Molo, Honorable Kuria Kimani.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. first of all, is to congratulate the leader of majority party, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, for bringing up this particular bill, the coffee bill of 2023, and the chair and the committee of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture for really doing justice to the recommendations made on this bill, and the report that they have tabled this afternoon really speaks a lot that they have the interest of the coffee farmers at heart. Honorable Speaker, I've had a chance to check on various research that has been done by credible institutions such as Carlo, International Coffee Organization, the University of Nairobi, the Coffee Board of Kenya, the Coffee Research Institute, among other reputable research institutions in this republic, on what has been ailing the coffee sector, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there are around 6 reasons or 6 problem statements that have been said that have been clearly been agreed upon by these particular research institutions that have been ailing the coffee sector, Honorable Speaker. One of them is the low and volatile prices of coffee. So whereas coffee is such a lucrative plant, especially in the international market, we've seen the price of this coffee both in the national, in the local market and in the international market fluctuate so much that it has led to unpredictable returns for farmers. And this has made farmers either move out from planting coffee or not getting the right returns for this investment, Honorable Speaker. And I was trying to compare that then, how does a coffee bill of 2024 then solve that particular problem of low prices and volatility? Honorable Speaker, I'm very impressed by the recommendation in the bill to introduce guarantee minimum returns that will ensure that the farmers will be assured of their respective prices for their coffee, Honorable Speaker. Further, I will be recommending to the committee and during the committee of the whole of the House to include further amendments to allow the way of ensuring that there is this guarantee minimum returns and stabilization of these prices by using modern forms of hedging against fluctuation in prices, such as using of futures and use of tokenization. Where, Honorable Speaker, with the current technology, it is possible for that coffee farmer in Kiambu or in Murang'a from where else in the country to put part of their coffee in the international market through tokenization and get investment and get return and better prices for their coffee through tokenization or through use. Again, this bill is proposing several amendments that will reduce the high cost of production of this particular plant. One of the greatest efforts that the current administration we have seen do is introduction of stabilized fertilizer as one of the ways of subsidizing the production of coffee, Honorable Speaker. In the subsequent amendments that we'll be seeing in this House, especially from the Finance and National Committee, would be to exempt duties and levies on inputs, on other inputs such as pesticides and such as pesticides control, Honorable Speaker, so that we can make the cost, we can reduce the cost of production on this particular product, Honorable Speaker. The other cost that has risen, the cost of production for coffee, has been lack of access to market, access to credit, Honorable Speaker. But we are happy that this bill again is introducing a farmers stabilization fund, and this fund is supposed to be availed to coffee farmers at low interest rates, and therefore this will in a way hedge them against the high cost of production, especially the high cost of credit in this country, Honorable Speaker. The issue of aging coffee trees has also been targeted, has also been said as one of the reasons why the coffee sector has been Honorable Speaker. Now, the establishment of a research institution and a fund to actually fund that particular research institution then will make sure that the coffee trees or the coffee plants that will be available to our coffee farmers are those trees that are going to last longer and have much higher yields, and therefore tackling the other challenge that has been said as one of the challenges in the coffee sector, which is the aging of coffee trees, Honorable Speaker. The issue of poor corporate management or in the cooperatives of these coffee farmers has also been a thorn in the flesh for farmers, Honorable Speaker. I'm impressed that also, Madam Speaker, now this bill also seeks to address this particular challenge by having more stringent regulations affecting the way these cooperatives are run, Honorable Speaker. Because most of these farmers are only able to sell their coffee through their local cooperatives. And when now there is lack of proper corporate governance, if these particular cooperatives have actually led to the collapse of this sector and very poor return on investment to the farmers, Honorable Speaker. So this bill now, by it addressing itself to this issue of poor corporate management by these cooperatives, will be a great source of relief to our coffee farmers, Honorable Speaker. The issue of pests and disease control has also been a great contributor to the challenges that have been happening around the coffee sector. And again, the establishment of this research institute and proposed funding for this particular institute will now lead to better environmental friendly and cheaper ways of pest and disease control, so that farmers can have longer lasting trees and they can have better quality coffee that will going to give them maximum returns, Honorable Speaker. Lastly, a key challenge has also been said to be that of brokers and middlemen, but however, now this bill is proposing to have direct sales for export and licensing, and therefore farmers now will have a chance to sell directly to the local and national market, and therefore bypassing all those exploitative intermediaries around the coffee sector, Honorable Speaker. So looking at what research has shown as the challenges that they exist in the coffee sector, and looking at what this bill has done, Honorable Speaker, I am convinced that this particular bill has passed by the Agriculture Committee, and as recommended in the detailed report the Agricultural Committee has done, is going to be the lifeline that the coffee farmers of this country have been looking forward to, so that those people in those areas that grow coffee can be able to take their children to school, they can be able to live a good life, they can be able to take care of the expenses, they can be able to look at coffee as an investment, and not just think about uprooting them and selling off the land where that coffee has been planted out, because they are going to get a good return on the investment. And as I went up, Honorable Speaker, Jackie Chan once said that coffee is a language in itself. And I know during this time when there is a lot of political conversation around this country, this quote by Jackie Chan cannot speak to that any better, that coffee is a language by itself. And one Clark Globe said, I never laugh until I've had my coffee. The coffee farmers will not laugh until they've got better returns for their coffee. And I know this will make them get a laugh, because they are going to get a good return on the investment on their coffee. With that, I beg to support, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Githunguri, Honorable Gathoni wa Mushomba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise on the onset to support this bill, because this is a bill that we have been waiting for as coffee farmers, as members of parliament who come from areas where coffee is grown. And this is a bill that some of us have spent quite a lot of time in the making. I remember we attended the Meru Coffee Conference to give our input to the formation of this bill. And I'm very excited that, Madam Speaker, finally this bill has seen the light of day. And it is my hope and sincere trust that we are going to do all it takes to make sure that the coffee bill becomes a law. Madam Speaker, as a farmer, I want to celebrate the return of the institution that supported many farmers with research in the early 80s, the late 80s, the early 90s, all the way up to the year 2003. This is when the Coffee Research Foundation was functional. And this is the institution that helped us to come up with the right breed and variety of coffee that is disease resistant, that is less expensive for the farmers, and gives the best quality and resistance to a lot of challenges. I am happy that Coffee Research Institute hoping that it is still going to be domiciled where the Coffee Research Foundation buildings are. And I am happy and excited if it is going to be domiciled there, because majority of the people who worked there were my voters from Githunguri. My constituency borders the institution, and therefore I'll be happy to see this institution domiciled at the border between Roiro and Githunguri constituency. Madam Speaker, I am happy because finally coffee farmers will have seedlings. They will have support of research that is needed so that the varieties that they are going to continue planting are the right varieties that are going to give them the returns. Madam Speaker, I'm also very excited because I can see the bill has proposed the return of Coffee Board of Kenya. The institution that excelled coffee farming in Kenya in the early 2000s and the late 1990s, when our farmers earned a lot of money from the marketing activities that were done by the Coffee Board of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I am excited as a coffee farmer that this Coffee Board of Kenya is not only going to help us in profiling our coffee in the right way, but also represent us ably in the international market platforms where we have failed to market our coffee. I am excited as a farmer that the aspect of introducing direct sales for Kenyan coffee farmers is now something that is acceptable by law. The farmers who have capacity to market their coffee directly are now allowed by law, if this bill becomes a law, so that the farmers can experience the aspect and the pride of marketing their quality coffee anywhere in the world. Mr. Speaker, I am also happy that the DSS, the Direct Settlement System, has been entrenched in law by this bill. This is a system that is going to allow coffee farmers to receive their money from any sale directly in their account without going through a roundabout of many other intermediaries who are taking away farmers' money. So this DSS, even as we welcome it, it is my hope and sincere hope that we are also going to be creating a very transparent system of DSS so that we don't deduct farmers' money with so many other unexplained deductions. Mr. Speaker, I seek for an opportunity to bring a few amendments to this bill. In as much as I am supporting it, there are areas I feel that we need to put amendments so that we align ourselves with the activities of the farmer. Mr. Speaker, I still do not understand why Coffee Board of Kenya has to be domiciled in Nairobi, yet all the farmers who practice coffee farming are not in Nairobi. Why can't the main headquarters of Coffee Board of Kenya be domiciled in Meru, in Nyeri, in Trans Nzoia, in Baringo, where we also have coffee? Why must we bring Coffee Board of Kenya offices in Nairobi, yet the farmers are in the villages? Let us be considerate that coffee is a rural crop, and you don't have to bring the headquarters of Coffee Board in Nairobi for you to be seen to be working. So I promise to bring an amendment because I feel we punish our farmers through the logistics of coming to Nairobi when they don't have to. Mr. Speaker, I also don't understand why coffee as a sector, as a subsector, has to be subjected to the bureaucracies of 4 ministries. For you to be able to achieve anything in the coffee subsector, coffee is under trade, it is under Ministry of Cooperative, Ministry of Agriculture, and Treasury. And by the way, also county government is involved. So whenever farmers, coffee farmers want something, they have to be staggered in all those 4 ministries for them to be able to achieve anything. Why can't we domicile coffee in one ministry? Why can't we say every other activity of coffee is under one ministry called Ministry of Agriculture or Ministry of Cooperative? And final, these bureaucracies, Mr. Speaker, create a lot of delays. Nothing moves. Bureaucracies after bureaucracies. So I'll bring an amendment, I hope I will succeed, so that we can streamline the functionality of this subsector. Mr. Speaker, last but not last, there is a clause that indicates that for any farmer to cut down a coffee tree, you must get authorization from the county government through the county executive minister. That, to me, is very oppressive. Why must you force a farmer to go and line up in the county government offices if they want to uproot their coffee and plant a new breed? Currently, I'm a coffee farmer. I am already uprooting my old trees to put the new variety because the weather has changed. Do I have to go to the county executive minister of Kiabu County for me to uproot my coffee? This is punitive. And we must not go through that route. So I will put amendment. I hope I will succeed so that I can be able to streamline that idea. Mr. Speaker, finally, I cannot keep quiet when we are introducing levies after levies in the coffee sector. It is good that we have brought back the CRF, Coffee Research Institute. It is good that we have brought back Coffee Board of Kenya. It is good that we have introduced county government as a key player. But already the county government are taxing farmers through licensing the pulping centers. If the farmer is already paying a levy for a pumping center to be licensed, why does that farmer has to pay another levy when they sell their coffee? This is double taxation, and it will not happen. So I will still and urge this House to allow us to make amendments so that farmers do not pay double levies in their value chain of coffee. I am excited that after many political games and dances that have been going around the coffee sector, finally this coffee bill, Senate bill of number 10 has seen the light of day. We are debating this bill, and I am hopeful that the coffee farmers are finally going to get the value for the energy they put in the coffee sector. And before I conclude, Mr. Speaker, coffee is a serious crop in this country that brings a lot of revenue in Kenya. By the way, coffee sector is supposed to be a ministry by its own, based on the amount of money coffee generates in this country. I still don't understand why we play politics with coffee. I still don't understand why we feel like we are over favoring coffee farmers. That the money that we have allocated in this House as coffee revolving advance charity fund can be reallocated by one public officer without seeking for clearance from this House or clearing or getting opinion from the farmers, and write a letter expressively reallocating coffee monies to other sectors. Whereas I don't have a problem with other people receiving money, coffee money must be respected and coffee farmers must be respected. Anybody trying to play around with coffee farmers' money must be told and be reminded. It is the coffee sector that brought the development you see in some of these White Highlands areas you see of Kericho, areas of Baringo, areas of Nyeri, areas of Kiambu, and we cannot take coffee farmers for granted anymore. And therefore we are still requesting and waiting for the permanent secretary in charge of cooperative to tell us that letter that is circulating around, showing and indicating that he intended to divert 1.5 billion shillings, money meant for coffee farmers, to other sectors without clearance of this House. Who gave it?
Yes, the Honorable Mutunga, what's your point of order?
Honourable Speaker, I'm wondering whether the member is in order to tag along the name and the docket of the PS cooperatives here, and he has no opportunity to defend himself. Honourable Speaker, ministries have the authority to manage their resources as per the guidelines given to them and the PFM Act. So why is this being dragged along here? Honourable Speaker, is that in order?
Order, Honourable Mutunga. The Honourable Lady has the absolute right to question the institution of the permanent secretary. She did not name names, but that is an office. And if she has her own issues with that, she has the right to bring up that on the floor of the House. Regardless of whether that is going to directly affect the minister himself, the cabinet secretary, or the PS, or any other minister, any other person who works in the ministry. The honorable, order, we are past that. The Honorable Maina Madenge. Order, Honorable Mutunga. Order, Honorable Mutunga.
Honorable Speaker, I stand to support this motion.
Proceed, Madenge.
Honorable Speaker, today is a great day for coffee farmers now that this bill is being debated in this House, and it will no longer be used on the rooftops of vehicles by politics and politicians who are trying to drive a certain narrative in the Mount Kenya region where coffee is mainly grown. There have been accusations that the majority leader in this House being falsely and unfairly accused of frustrating a bill that had not even gotten to the floor of this House. While senior members who have been here long enough know the procedure of Parliament and the way bills are processed. So today, I'm a happy member of this House and also a happy chair of the Parliamentary Coffee Caucus. Honorable Speaker, the regeneration of the Kenya coffee industry has come at a time of great challenges. The coffee growing areas and land has shrunk tremendously. The production per tree has gone down. Farmers have been pushed at the periphery of the coffee trade. This bill brings back farmers as major players in the trading of the coffee commodity. Honorable Speaker, the coming back of the re-establishment of the Coffee Research Institute at a time when farmers are faced with the effects of climate change, the effects of new diseases and pesticides, and declining production, the need to regenerate the aging coffee bushes could not have come at a better time. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I allowed this bill for bringing back the Coffee Research Institute. However, Honorable Speaker, I still feel that in the same way we fund research at Kemri, in the same way we fund research at Karo, the coffee farmer, because this is a key crop for this country, a key foreign exchange earner, the coffee farmer must also be supported by the exchequer in reviving the research which has been largely dormant for over 10 years. Honorable Speaker, a number of regulators are still active in the coffee value chain, from county governments, the Capital Markets Authority, and the board. It is important for, especially in the coffee trade at the Nairobi Coffee Auction and the Nairobi Coffee Exchange, which is regulated by the Capital Markets Authority, that there is simplicity, clarity, and speed in resolving issues that have either been raised by traders or by the authority itself. Honorable Speaker, it is not possible and tenable in this era of accountability and transparency for the Capital Markets Authority to raise a question to be responded for by a coffee broker, give them 7 days to respond, yet sit on the same communication in resolving it for more than 21 days. That is being an impediment to coffee trade. Honorable Speaker, the best prices by our coffee farmers are fetched through the direct sales. Direct sales must be allowed to thrive and not frustrated in this country. That is where our farmers are able to get better prices over and above the prices at the auction. Direct sales must be allowed to complement the sales at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange, and therefore the clarity to the route to the market for direct sales, clarity for settlement, and speedy resolution, and the number of bureaucracies and the number of offices required lying in between the conclusion and the agreement of the price and the export of the commodity by the buyer must be streamlined and simplified. In fact, ideally, we should see in this law direct sales having a one-stop shop. Honorable Speaker, the coffee farmer during his heydays had the Kenya Planters Cooperative Union. Those assets were mismanaged. And even the coming back of the coffee board, we must ensure that the membership of the board does not also run into the same problems that KPCU ran. New KPCU today is a parastatal, and the question of how this parastatal will continue to operate alongside the coffee board needs to be clarified. Honorable Speaker, the milling capacity in this country has been competing for very low volumes. And the area of milling has been used traditionally. Actually, the milling area has been the home and the den of cartels. Whereas the new reforms have disrupted the horizontal integration. Honorable Speaker, we cannot remove the old cartels and create a new dominant cartel to carry out the same roles that we were saying have caused suffering to the farmers. Honorable Speaker, it is not possible for millers and brokerage agents and brokerage firms to participate in direct trade, in direct sales, and therefore we must provide for punitive penalties for the players who violate the provisions of this law. Honorable Speaker, the question of financing production of coffee is central to the revival of the coffee business in this country. And therefore we must have clarity and predictable subsidy program for coffee farmers. This sector requires a rebirth, it requires to be revived, and we have to make deliberate steps to support the coffee farmer better. I want to congratulate the Kenya Kwanza government for continuation of the Sheriff Fund, but it is also important and paramount that we craft support for farm inputs and agronomy services. Extension services and the county governments have gone to the dogs. It is imperative that if we are reviving this sector, that the national government intervenes or provides clear guidelines for collaboration in supporting farmers with better agronomy services. Honorable Speaker, the most interesting part is the marketing and selling aspect. In this country, coffee sales and coffee purchase is dominated by about 6 large companies. Those large companies have crowded out any small players who would want to come and provide and offer competition. The Nairobi Coffee Exchange must deliberately open the route for the small players who will buy small volumes at premium prices to come and compete in that space. Alternatively, we must create a deliberate path for those small players to go directly to our wet mills and our cooperatives and purchase our coffee directly from our farmers. Honorable Speaker, I support.
The Honorable Member of Parliament for Kirinyaga and Jerry.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support this bill. Honorable Speaker, I stand here as a good example and a beneficiary of proceeds of coffee. My humble parents from Kirinyaga County used to farm or engage in coffee farming, and those are the proceeds that took me through school. Honorable Speaker, allow me to first recognize the meticulous work done by the Senate Committee on Agriculture, led by Honorable Kamau Murango, the Senator Kirinyaga County. Honorable Speaker, it goes without saying that for a long time, coffee farmers have not been getting their dues. Honorable Speaker, Kirinyaga County produces some of the best coffee famed for its aroma. Notably, Ruto factory from Geshugu constituency fetched Kenya shillings 1,715 per kg for their AA grade in the last year at the NCE. Honorable Speaker, despite the challenges that have been there in the coffee sector, this bill now seeks to address some of the pertinent issues so that coffee farmers can finally enjoy the proceeds of their work. It is worth noting, Honorable Speaker, that governance has been a major challenge in the coffee sector. As we discuss and debate the Coffee Bill, Honorable Speaker, 2023, it is also important to remember that we must also fast-track as a House the Cooperatives Bill that will address most of the issues that occur in the governance sector of coffee. Honorable Speaker, recently in Kirinyaga County, we saw protests in various cooperatives, notably Kiberege Coffee Farmers Cooperative and Mutira Coffee Farmers Cooperative, due to governance issues that have denied farmers their dues and loopholes that are exploited to ensure that they do not get what is owed to them. Honorable Speaker, we must go an extra mile to ensure that as we push for direct sales, Honorable Speaker, so that coffee farmers can be able to market their coffee and sell it directly to any willing buyer, bypassing intermediaries that often manipulate market prices and take advantage of them, that we also address concerns that coffee cooperatives are facing at the county level in terms of infrastructure, Honorable Speaker, which is the duty of the county, Honorable Speaker. We must also address issues of farmhand inputs, Honorable Speaker. We know that we had a very robust fertilizer program, Honorable Speaker, but as I speak, farmers of Kiberege Coffee Cooperative Society, Honorable Speaker, do not have the necessary farmhand inputs to ensure that they are also able to grow the crop and maximize the output on their farms. Honorable Speaker, it is worth noting that Clause 47 introduces a levy, a purported levy to be paid to the county governments that is supposed to maintain the society factories infrastructure. However, Honorable Speaker, county governments have proven from time to time that even once they get these funds, they do not have the goodwill to ensure that the funds are applied and are not diverted. Currently, as I speak, county governments have what we call NAGRIP that is supposed to facilitate agricultural infrastructure and also offer extension officers at the local level to support farmers so that they can increase their output. However, the same is never applied at the county level. So we must check some of the issues that have been raised or rather introduced by the coffee bill that will not address the challenges the farmers have been facing. Perhaps the national government can come to a common ground with the county government on what duties can be undertaken by national government and what the county governments have the capacity to do. Honorable Speaker, we must also streamline the sector in ensuring that farmers are not exploited merely because perhaps they are not able to read the many documents that are presented during the AGMs, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, any coffee farmer who has attended an AGM can tell you the tedious documentation, the hidden charges in terms of marketing, in terms of transport that is charged in dollars, whereas it is transport at the local level. And all these concerns, Honorable Speaker, the bureaucracy involved in it must be lessened so that the farmer is able to examine any documentation that is presented during the annual general meetings, and be able to make even informed decisions when they are giving borrowing power to the societies, Honorable Speaker. In recent times, Honorable Speaker, we have seen protests by coffee farmers arising out of instances where borrowing power has been abused by the societies or the cooperatives, Honorable Speaker, where there has been conflict of interest, where some board members also sit in some unscrupulous circles, and they borrow money purporting to have borrowing authority from the coffee farmers who do not understand the documentation and the hefty documents that are provided during AGMs, Honorable Speaker. And then, mysteriously, the circles collapse. Honorable Speaker, these pertinent issues, if they're not addressed, even if we have robust law allowing farmers to have direct sale, yet governance issues are not addressed, coffee farmers will continue to suffer. Honorable Speaker, my colleague, the member for Manyata constituency, who is the chairperson KYPA, and I will be proposing some of these amendments to address governance issues and ensure that farmers get what is due to them. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Eli. Proceed, Honorable Melly. Give me the mic.
I lost my card, so I don't know.
Yeah, you have the mic next to you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want first of all to commend the Committee of Agriculture, led by the member, Dr. Mutunga, for really bringing this bill, which it is long overdue. This is the bill that, Honorable Speaker, the Committee of Agriculture of the 12th Parliament, we did deliberate and move around the country to really make sure that the coffee farmer in this country is really gets his dues. Honorable Speaker, as we discuss this bill, I want to say that coffee farmers in this country, or coffee farming, supports almost 1 million households, smallholder. It is the crop that has been called in Kenya the black gold of the 80s. It is because of that in the 80s and most parts of the 90s, Mr. Speaker, coffee was actually a top crop in this country. But due to mismanagement and the competition in the global market, coffee has actually gone down. But I want to thank the committee because this bill seeks to resuscitate the coffee sector. Among the issues that are actually here, Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that this bill seeks to look into, among other things, one, to bring in the coffee board. Honorable Speaker, AFA, through the Crop Act of 2011, has decided to lump all major crops under one particular act: sugar, tea, and coffee. And therefore, it lacked the attention that it deserved. This bill is actually trying to tell the government and the players in the industry that coffee is a major crop and the government needs to have very good attention to it, and more importantly, to the farmers. This bill, in clauses 4 to 22, seeks to establish the Coffee Board of Kenya. And this coffee board, under the CEO and under the board, has a number of issues that are supposed to assist farmers. One of it is the coffee fund. One of it is the coffee cherry development fund, which every time during picking of the crop, and I want to tell this house that coffee is a labor-intensive crop, which needs a lot of laborers during picking, mostly. And if the farmers do not get money that time, the crop goes to waste. And this bill has tried to address that, and more importantly, to also make sure that coffee has its own chapter, has its own place in the agriculture sector. Two, Honorable Speaker, in clauses 22 to 25, the bill tries to bring in the local coffee laws to ensure that issues of licensing of the various coffee processing plants or cherry plants. In my constituency, Honorable Speaker, Tindred has over 30 coffee processing small factories. And every other time, because of lack of the relevant laws, at times these farmers go through a lot of problems. In fact, by making sure that the county government plays a pivotal role in licensing, so that these particular issues of coffee plantation, coffee licensing for the establishment of coffee factories, the county government comes into play. And more importantly, we need to have closer agricultural extension officers to ensure that we have quality management. On regulatory provisions, Mr. Speaker, the bill from clauses 26 to 35 actually looks at the production, registration of various operators, growers, millers, roasters, processing, licensing, and reporting. Honorable Speaker, it is in this bill that, as it has come to this House, there are actually a number of conflicts that I'm proposing as a member or as a grower or a farmer to ensure that we have no conflict of interest between the farmer, a grower, a processor, and even a roaster. So that every other process of coffee, the interests are actually catered for, more importantly of the farmer. The farmer is the main player in this. So by actually lumping them together, you'll realize that some marketers, some growers, some roasters, and even some marketers will always benefit more than the farmer. Who takes the lion's share? He has all the time to wait for the crop in the field. He has all the time to take through the processing, and is the one who carries the burden of payment. So in this particular case, I'll be proposing a number of amendments to ensure that the role of a farmer, and more importantly, the smallholder, is really put into consideration. On the production and processing, Honorable Speaker, on clauses 39 to 48, it governs the production, material imports, coffee, and certification, and traceability, and forms of various disclosure to authorities. Honorable Speaker, this country, we have what we call specialty crops. It is in this clause that we really need to look into as a House, and I want to urge honorable members who are within the House, and more importantly from coffee growing areas, that we really guard the quality of coffee. Coffee from the Eastern Highlands and Western Highlands, where I come from, are of very high standards, are of very high quality. At times we allow unscrupulous individuals to export our coffee, or to import our, to mix our coffee with other less quality coffee, and therefore to make our coffee don't look of high quality in the national market. These clauses 39 to 45 tries to look at how do we make sure that the production of coffee, the materials that we use, especially on the imports and certification, and we make sure that we can be able to trace every coffee that we produce from the market and from Kenya to even the international community. It will be very good. Honorable Speaker, I also want to say that the establishment of a DSS, direct sales settlement, is going to give a lot of money to farmers. One of the things that has really given cooperative societies, more so in my constituency and in those parts of the North Rift, is that farmers sell their crop and they wait forever to get money. This is actually affecting most of the societies. And by direct sales, I want to say that the farmer will immediately the sales are done, the payment is digitized or is in digital. You can be able to access your money almost instantly. So in this, it will now allow farmers not to wait forever. In fact, a number of farmers, I included, at times sell our crop and waited for up to 1 month. Where is that money? Yet already the money was paid about a month ago. It is lying somewhere to give interest and profits to the middlemen, the marketers, and the others. Honorable Speaker, on quality assurance, clauses 60 to 62 tries to ensure that compliance with quality standards and various levels of production, inspections, and controls. And this one, Honorable Speaker, I want to say this, especially during the the crop development, crop husbandry, the issues of fertilization, the issue of crop husbandry, the issue of taking care of the crop during the cherry and even the roasting stage. All those are very important, especially because coffee is a very sensitive crop. It is so sensitive that all the quality assurance and standards measures make sure that we produce the best. In fact, if we are going to take care, most of our farmers are going to have a production per tree of even up to 10 kilos. In fact, at times, many farmers would do very large scale, about 2 acres, and yet they don't get that particular amount of money. On coffee research, let me say this. Coffee has been domiciled at KALRO, and KALRO has a lot of agricultural related activities. I want to say that it is important that we bring coffee to have Coffee Research Institute. We are actually saying that we have a Coffee Research Institute in Koru, we have a Coffee Research Institute in Ruiru. We want to establish as many coffee research institutes, even in coffee growing counties, so that the accessibility and the new knowledge and the new idea on crop development reaches the farmer faster. KALRO has actually had so many broad-based activities. Honorable Speaker, on financial provisions, let me just say this, that cooperative societies, and I want to ask that let the cooperative societies not be allowed, especially directors, to be just picking loans anyhow and actually subjecting their societies into debt. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that I shall be proposing a number of amendments on this, more specifically on how the cooperative societies are going to be managed, and more importantly, to stop the directors from taking loans. Thank you.
The Honorable Murugara, followed by the Honorable MP for Kwanza.
Good. Thank you. Manyata. Murugara is from
Murugara.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
The
Mr.
chair
Speaker.
of JLAC, an MP for the Raka.
Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to also voice some support for this bill. It's a Senate bill. I must start by saying so. But it's a bill that is actually well done. It has undergone public participation. And I confirm this because I have heard from the farmers making inquiries through OFORA what has happened to their bill, the coffee bill, on which they had public participation. This is unlike the Ndengu bill, which I've just opposed purely because it was not taken to the farmers for them to put in their input so that they are able to get a law which they actually understand. Coffee is one of the most important cash crops in the country. It is actually not grown much in the Raka constituency, but it is grown extensively in Chuka and Mara, which are my neighboring constituencies, Chuka Igambangombe, and specifically Chuka area, which are neighboring to Tharaka. And therefore this bill will also be of great benefit to my county of Tharaka Nithi. Since coffee was introduced in the country in 1902, it actually did very well. Quickly, the economy of the young colony and the protectorate was changed because coffee was massively grown. It was later rivaled by Saiso, but again it overtook Saiso. Areas where coffee was grown became bread baskets of the country, and this is one reason today those areas are more developed than the areas where coffee was not being grown. Africans were not allowed to grow coffee until towards independence, when the likes of Chief Koinange and the others were allowed to do so. But after independence, and we had a law, the Coffee Act, which was in place at that time, then quickly the crop gained popularity, and in the 70s, it was the mainstay of the country. It was overtaken by tea later, but again, we want to restore coffee to where it used to be so that Not only is it a major foreign exchange earner for the country, it is also one of the crops that give farmers the best of the income for their livelihoods. This new law is very important because it handles the three major areas of coffee growing, starting with crop husbandry, research, and growing or germinating of the crop. And here is important for us to emphasize that in the 70s and 80s, the Ruto Coffee Research Institute, I think it was called a foundation then, was extremely pivotal in getting the best breeds or the best brands or crops of coffee grown in the country. Soon after that, we just got it wrong as a country, and coffee went to the dogs. In fact, farmers started uprooting the crop. A very undesirable development that happened. We are happy to note today, whether through the new KPCU and the Coffee Board of Kenya, the crop is getting back to its roots. We must also work on marketing, because that is where the problem came in. We started having cooperatives which did not give a damn to what sort of crop was grown, provided the little that they could collect was marketed, and they would pay for the money and not care about the farmers. Today, we must ensure that the farmer gets value for the crop produced and taken to the market. And we cannot say this without any more emphasis than we are doing now. There has been an issue raised as to why coffee transcends 4 ministries. And this, we must admit, because this is our country, brings in the issue of bureaucracy when decisions have to be made regarding the crop. The parent ministry is the Ministry of Agriculture. This is the one that has to deal with the crop production, husbandry, and harvesting of the crop before it is taken to the market. Then it comes in the Ministry of Cooperatives, because most of the crop is grown under cooperative societies. We know very well it's one ministry that must be streamlined. It is not as efficient as it should, and the new CS must move in to make it even better than it is. After that, it moves to the Ministry of Trade, because we have to market it abroad. We have to take it to the countries where it is consumed, and we are paid for it. Again here, we must streamline, not in the likes of the way we market our manufactured products. This is a crop, it belongs to a farmer. It doesn't belong to an industry. And therefore, the way it is treated by the Minister of Trade and Development must be peculiar as the other crops are done. We have the Minister of Finance, which I believe is where monies would come into the country through, and the disbursement would have to be done. And again here, we have to be efficient. The farmers have to be given their money in a timeous manner. The reason why coffee collapsed is because, number one, the prices were mundane. The prices were so poor that no farmer would even want to weed for the crop or even harvest it. Number two, when the funds came in, the cooperatives would always take the lion's share. And this is what we are trying to get away from. And after that, then we would have immense debts, indebtedness by the societies, which of late, the Ministry of Cooperatives has to move around the country to try and have those debts waived. We do not want to get into this. This is why Senate has brought this bill. Sorry, this is why the leader of majority has brought in this bill. And as such, we have to support the bill for the benefit of our farmers. So with those very many remarks, I beg to support this bill. I will also support the amendments proposed by those who come from the coffee growing areas, because they are the paramount stakeholders in this. Good amendments have to be supported so that we make this bill as good as it can be. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do support.
But can you hear me first?
Mheshimiwa Wanyonyi, have you?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable
I've been
members,
waiting the whole afternoon to talk about this bill.
You,
And,
honorable members, can I order honorable members? I want to bring to your attention that we'll have an adjournment motion at exactly 5:30.
I can't hear.
And I want to bring to the attention of all members that we'll have an adjournment motion at exactly 5:30, which is exactly 10 minutes away. So if you take less time, then you'll allow, because this motion has got a lot of interest, this bill, will allow more members also to weigh in on that. Proceed, Honorable MP for Kwanza.
I shouldn't be the last one.
Proceed.
First of all, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity. And I want to draw the attention of the Kenyans that the coffee is actually, from the time it was introduced in this country, almost a century ago, it was referred to as gold. It's actually gold in Kenya because black gold. And most farmers were involved. And I remember when I was a small baby, we had a lot of coffee plantation. And Mr. Speaker, as mentioned by other people, coffee was wide in areas, particularly in my area of those sides of Bungoma. Why are you cutting my? No, I was talking here. Yes, proceed. What happened? This is a frustration, actually confusing. I was making a contribution, Mr. Speaker, that actually coffee was referred to as black gold because it was black gold at that time. And as mentioned by the proposer of this bill, and I think it was mentioned by my chairman of agriculture, Kenya was actually the second to Ethiopia in terms of exportation and growing of coffee in this country because we actually refer to it as black gold in our own area. It's because, of course, looking at the requirement for the growing of coffee, Mr. Speaker, coffee, we have a very good soil, particularly slopes of Mount Kenya, slopes of Mount Algon, where I come from. We actually are planting a lot of coffee because of the soil and the climatic condition at that time. So the question here is, the challenges that actually have been mentioned is our own creation, our own failure. We should actually look at it very critically, and I've been talking to my chairman of the Agriculture Committee. As we proceed, we want to revert coffee so that it becomes black gold as actually was perceived that time. Because, first of all, we were actually beating Ethiopia. Ethiopia and Uganda. Uganda was number 3. We were number 2 to Ethiopia because, of course, of the topography in Ethiopia. So they were growing a lot of coffee there. But we actually failed ourselves. One, we had the extension officers, Mr. Speaker. The extension officers were helping farmers to actually assist in production of this particular gold. And of course, as you know, we were then exporting after processing. But today, our own failure has been, we are now actually exporting raw material in the raw form. Other than actually, even those factories that were there, the small factories were there that were processing coffee at that time, are no longer there. And I want to find out exactly what happened. So that's why the Committee of Agriculture and the chairman is here. We are going to ask the Minister of Agriculture to see how can be able to revive those small factories that were processing the coffee before actually were exported. And of course, we are earning a lot of foreign exchange. And this country was really, as a reminder, was really respected because it was actually coffee exporting country in Africa, apart from Ethiopia. The
therefore, I think we should be able to do, one is to be able to get the research institutions, the research centers actually revitalized to be able to actually start continuing with the research of coffee, and we get various varieties, because at the end of the day today, people are very, with the technology that actually is there today, Mr. Speaker, people want to know what variety are you actually producing. You go to some other countries and you ask what you want to take, you want to get tea, they ask you what kind of tea. Say, I want an African tea. You get very good tea because it's actually exported. If you want African coffee out there, it's very well processed, and therefore, again, this is something that we have to ask the research. And I think AFA was coming up with those research. Now today, we are now removing coffee from AFA so that it's on its own. We have the coffee board of Kenya, which again, I don't know. You ask me, I don't know what went wrong with the coffee board of Kenya. But it actually went into AFA because of the marketing part of it. So, Mr. Speaker, we actually have to go back and see where the rains are beating us. And last year, not least, I wanted to make sure that we have this exchange of services, which of course, as we are saying, we are reviving the research areas, we are reviving, somebody mentioned earlier, I think one of the speakers from the very beginning, that you should have centers in the areas that are growing coffee, other than coming all the way to Nairobi. If you have an issue, you have to come all the way to Nairobi, which is not right. Let's have some of these things localized so I can be able to see if there's any problem for a particular farmer. The farmers are actually willing to. And of course, if you have planted coffee, like I have got coffee in my area in Tanzania, which was one of the biggest areas that were growing coffee that time, because the white settlers actually settled there and were growing coffee in those areas. You can also plant. Apart from planting, you can also have intercropping of the whatever product you want, the maize, wheat, or whatever, even sunflowers. And therefore, I want us to take this very seriously. And the chairman, you are here, chairman of agriculture, let's get people who are supposed to revive this coffee sector for the benefit of our country. With those of you remarks, I know you are looking at me, you are looking at, I want to take this opportunity to support this, and I'll be among those that are going to come up with a new proposal to be able to go back to where we are, because it's just carelessness that the coffee sector today is no more. I support this bill. The Honorable Mogaka, MP for West Mugirango, you have exactly 2 minutes.
Mike. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I must thank the Committee for Agriculture for making this bold initiative to make the 13th Parliament the savior of the coffee farmer in this republic. I allowed the introduction of this bill, and I support the committee's report, and I will also be on my toes proposing very progressive amendments that are going to make our coffee farmers have their smile back on their faces. And as I say this, Mr. Speaker, when we were growing up as children, indeed, coffee was gold. It will be a disaster when we are adults and in leadership that now coffee turns out to be a disaster. I want to urge this Parliament to rise to the occasion and make Kenya a great coffee producer, a great coffee exporter, and a great foreign exchange earner as it was before. Mr. Speaker, my constituency, West Mugirango, was one of and still is one of the largest coffee producers, but majority of the coffee bushes are abandoned because farmers have been driven out of the farm because of the mismanagement, the squander, and the pilferage that goes on in the coffee sector. This bill seeks to introduce systems that are foolproof, that are farmer-centric, that are going to assure that every farmer will get value for their farm, for their farm work. And I want to urge and take this platform to ask my people of West Mogrango that if there is a time we need to revive our coffee sector, if there is a time we need to get back to the coffee farms, if there is a time we need to make money out of this coffee, the time is now. And as their member of parliament, I will be in the front line of making sure that we liberate them, we empower them, we ensure that coffee farmers get value for their money. I support.
It's exactly 5:30. By the time we reconvene again on this bill, the Honorable Mogaka will have an additional 8 minutes. And if he is going to be in the House, he will be followed by the MP for Manyata. Order, honorable members. Next order. The Honorable Gachimo, I see you, and I would gladly give you an opportunity for you to contribute. You must take note that the chair is one of the founder members of the Coffee and Tea Parliamentary Association in this parliament, in the 7th parliament. So coffee is something that is very close to my heart. So I know you, how much you are committed to it. But the Honorable, next order, let's continue now. The Honorable Mbui, you have an adjournment motion. We have an adjournment motion. You have 10 minutes yourself. You will not have a seconder. And every other member will have only 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Definite matter of urgent national importance regarding the implementation of the CBC student transition. First, I want to thank the Speaker for allowing this motion and also the House for supporting it so that we can be able to address this motion. Now, Honorable Speaker, as enactment of the competence-based curriculum continues, the Pioneer CBC class is expected to transition to grade 9, commencing in January 2025. However, this transition has caused increased apprehension among parents and widespread concern on the preparedness of the education sector with regard to the transition. Of importance in this matter is, of course, infrastructure, which was initially, Mr. Speaker, meant to be lodged within secondary schools, but then when the new regime came into office, His Excellency the President came up with a presidential working party on education reforms, which recommended that this transition remain in primary schools. So junior secondary schools are domiciled in primary schools. Now, additionally, the practicality of putting up classrooms and other facilities like laboratories by December 2024, before the start of grade 9 lessons in January 2025, is in doubt. So at present, the transition is also marred with the issue of a shortage of junior secondary teachers, crucial for the success of this program. Now, Mr. Speaker, it's against this background that I want to encourage the House to discuss this matter with a view to exploring possible solutions and advise the key players, stakeholders, and the country at large on what we need to do within the period that is still remaining before these children end up in that position. Mr. Speaker, I want to point out first that the grade 8, which is going to grade 9 next year, are the pioneer in CBC. And Mr. Speaker, if you remember, these children, when they came from grade 6 to grade 7, they did an entry exam. And Mr. Speaker, all schools were not entitled to carry out CBC. So these children, some of them had to travel for many kilometers, because what the Ministry of Education did is that it collapsed. A few schools were allowed to provide junior secondary while others were not. In my own constituency, Mr. Speaker, there was almost up to 5-6 schools that were feeding into one school. So what was happening, Mr. Speaker, is that there was serious congestion. And this is what we are worried about. This is what we want to make sure that we don't fall into, we don't want to fall into that trap. Mr. Speaker, this is the facts of this matter. That in January 2025, we will see almost 1.5 million students that are in grade 8 transitioning into grade 9. in over 32,000 primary schools in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, that is only 3.5 months away from now. Is the Ministry of Education prepared for that transition? That is the matter, and that is the reason why I have thought that it is important for this House to discuss this matter.